Hello and welcome back to 30 Days to Learn Photoshop. This is day 18, the pen tool. My name's Ben Gribbin, and in today's lesson we're going to consider what the pen tool is, and we're going to look at direct techniques and how we can incorporate it into our workflow. So let's go ahead and switch over to Photoshop, which is hopefully by now becoming your favourite program. And we're going to make a new document, 1024 by 768 pixels, and we're going to set it with a white background, so it's a custom size. Press OK. And there we have our document we're going to work in. Many people think the pen tool is a writing tool, but if you try to write with it and create shapes, you can see that's not gone very well. So what is the pen tool if it isn't a writing tool? Well, we have the text tool or the type tool for writing. The pen tool is designed to create paths. It can be used to create shapes. It can be used to create paths. And it was originally designed by a man who created it to be able to help design vehicles. So what are paths then? Well, paths are vector based, which means they're not really an image. They're actually a group of location of grid points that create a shape that can be resized, doubled, tripled in size. You can keep going with the size. It will never lose detail. It will never become noisy or pixely at the edges. And a path is really separate from your graphic until you turn it into something that's a raster, or you might add a shape which will then be saved in your final file. So these two tools here, the pen tool and the path selection tool and the direct selection tool, those are related, and we're going to show you how. So first we're going to just make a simple shape using the pen tool and consider how we can do that. So we're just going to make just any old shape just to show you how it works. Start off by clicking a point. This is going to be where your shape starts and also ends. So wherever you start, you need to come back to this point. So we're going to go ahead and create just a simple sort of hexagon shape, which could be a table, it could be anything. And you notice we go back to the original point, click, and that creates us a shape. Now that shape's set to white, sorry. Let's put it to black just so you can see it. There you go. We've got that shape now. That is a shape we've created using the pen tool. So it's kind of related to the shapes tool in part. We've got numerous options along the top. We've got the ability to create paths, which we're going to show you in a second. We've got the pen tool, and we've got the freeform pen tool, which is kind of similar to the pen tool, only rather than being regimented and a little bit more accurate, we can just basically draw using this tool. So it's more like the lasso tool in that you create curves by literally drawing around them. So that's how that works. So in order to actually use this tool effectively, the pen tool, we need to be able to create curves. We need to be able to create corners. And in order to do that, you click and you make your shape. So let's say we've got this hexagon. This time we're going to add a curve up, a corner, and a curve down, sort of like a shark fin shape. And in order to do that, you'd think you just click and pull away from the path whilst holding your mouse down, and that creates the curve, which works fine. However, the length of these handles here actually affects the next point you make. So let me just show you what I mean. If we go back down to here where we want our fin to end and pull, you'll see the path gets stretched along here, and it gives it a curve, which we don't want. Shark fins are generally not like that. So in order to remove the direction handles, once you've happily placed them wherever you want them, go over them and you'll notice you get this minus icon with the pen. You don't want that because that's just going to delete that point. In actual fact, you want to click Alt and click onto there, and this direction handle here has now gone. So we can still resize it using the other one, but if we edit undo that, click down here, now we've got a nice sharp point which we can resize, play around with, and effectively we've made a corner. So let's just show you that again. In order to create a corner down here, we could use that, or we can press down and remove any direction handles that we would have. If you want to edit your shape, click onto the direct selection tool, and any of your points during the construction or even after making a shape are completely editable. We get the direction handles so we can tweak them, and this is where pen tools come into their own. Pressing shift and holding that down means that a line will only go in certain directions, which helps align it and create perfectly flat lines, and we can select one or two together. So it's Great tool for making shapes. It's not the only use of this tool, however. We can use it for a couple of things. Let's show you by opening up a photograph file. So we're going to use that photograph file we've been using throughout the vehicle that we have saved just there. So let's go ahead and open that. Now if you remember in our lasso tool we use this as a test just to show you how we can isolate an object from its background. We're going to use the pen tool to do this now because it's got a very cool feature of being able to make selections. In order to do it you need to make sure it's not on the shape layers mode but actually on path mode, which isn't going to make a shape over your graphic, it's just going to make a path or an outline around it. So start up here, let's say, and we can go down along here, clicking wherever we want to make a point, and now you see the kind of advantages over this against the freeform lasso tool or indeed the polygon lasso tool, because we can create really smooth, perfectly aligned shapes and curves, and it's just a really nice tool because instead of having committed ourselves to that point, unlike the lasso tool does, we're actually able to edit, go back, and we can edit any of these points, move them about, shift them about till we're happy with them, and then we can actually make a selection from this. So this tool again works with the space bar, so we can just select the hand tool temporarily. We're going to close that path off, and you see we've now got a path. It's not made a new layer, it's just made a path onto our graphic. And if we go to the path selection tool like so, you can see we can now change these points anywhere we like, can move the selection round. If we go to the direct selection tool we're able to move those points on the path. We can do all kinds of things with this, but that's not the best part. If you now right click onto your path, you see you get some more options, and we're going to show you the stroke path and make selection in particular. Make selection, very interesting. It's more accurate than using lasso tool, so go ahead and click on it. Make sure it's not feathered unless you want it to be, and put it on anti-alias and operation new selection. Press OK, and then you can see it's made us a selection of that area we outlined. Now if we delete that now, it will just delete everything around there, or we can actually inverse our selection. So go to select, inverse, or press Command Shift I or Control Shift I if you're on a Mac, Windows, sorry. Click on that, and that will then switch us to being able to delete the path that we've selected on the inside, or we can reverse it and delete everything on the outside, and you could use that to go around the vehicle and mask it out like you wish. Another cool feature that you might occasionally find yourself needing to do with the path tool is being able to outline the path you've made. Now in order to do this, a little bit finicky, go into the brush tool, set the brush to the size and hardness that you want, and also set your foreground colour to the colour you want it. Create an empty new layer, so go to layer, file, layer, new layer, or press Command Shift and N. Okay, we'll just give it no name for now. And if we now click with the path selection tool onto our path and hit stroke path, we get this new window. This gives us the option to simulate pressure or not, and we can select which tool we want to use, so we could literally go around the path doing any of these tools. So let's try it with the brush with simulated pressure on. Press OK, and then you want to delete your path ideally so that you can see what's underneath. If we just remove the graphic, you can see it's actually outlined the shape we made there, and simulated pressure, you could turn that off so it's just a solid outline. Finally, what if you want to make nicely aligned images and shapes using this tool, the pen tool? Well, it's a little bit finicky again, but if you go to view and make sure extras are turned on, go on to show and press grid, and you'll see we've now got a grid which isn't part of the document, it's just a reference point for us and allows us to create nice uniform symmetrical shapes. You want to make sure view and snap to the grid is turned on, because this is what will happen. Let's click here onto the point we want to start. We're going to make a small rounded rectangular box. So we'll go up to the second point, creating our curve, and you'll watch this, it snaps. Do you see that? It snaps just there. Then we're going to go across two squares onto that axis there, back down to wherever we want it, and watch as we drag down, it's going to snap into place there. repeat the process, going around the entire shape, clicking every 2 squares, wait until it snaps, same again, cross this diagonal, and we've gone off a little bit slightly there, and click onto there, and that is then a nice rounded symmetrical shape. And you can use that on more complicated shapes. In order to turn the guides off, go on to extras and just tick those off. You can press Command H or Control H and you can just toggle those on and off. You can change the grid size as well if you wanted, depending on what size you're working at. So go to Preferences, which will be under the File or Edit menu or the Photoshop menu on Mac, and go down to Guides, Grids and Slices, and then down to the grid selection you can change the colours, how many subdivisions you've got, how many or how often the grid lines are, so that'll allow you to fine tune your selections and shapes. So in today's lesson we've learned what the pen tool is, we've looked at how to utilise it in creating shapes and selection areas, and also we've introduced the extras option in the view menu. And your lesson task is to find a detailed image with an object that you want to separate from the background. Using the pen tool, go around, mark out the area and create a new layer with your isolated object in by selecting it and then simply copying and pasting it in. Next time on 30 Days to Learn Photoshop, we'll be looking at opening and importing files. Thanks for listening.